So, hello and welcome to yet another inspiring session of modulyss Talks. Isabel, I'm one of the sales directors of modulyss, and I will be your host for today. For the ones that is the first time joining a modulyss Talk, during a modulyss Talk, we give a stage to some experts in the design industry, and we are lucky to be inspired by them. Today is our second session, or our second webinar on the topic neuroaesthetics, the science behind how our brains perceive and respond on art and design experiences. In the first session, we had the expert Karen Heller, who shared her expertise more on the psychological effect of colors and patterns in interiors. Our expert of today is actually a Canadian award-winning creative director, Amar Alnemer. Amar is specialized in the design world, actually in the cross between creativity, design, innovation, and technology. When you scroll on his Instagram, you're always doubting his reality is his fantasy, but it takes on a beautiful travel between time and in. We are lucky because today Amar will share with us some of his knowledge, his expertise on how AI is forming the design process, how to define colors and patterns in AI. So with no further ado, please join in welcoming Amar Alnemer here on our stage. Amar, I'm looking forward to learn from
you. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining this exciting session on AI innovation in design. First and foremost, this is basically the second installment that modulyss is hosting, and I'm presenting for you the AI and design innovation segment of it. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Amar Alnemer. I've been in the creative and design world for over 20 years. I've worked in architecture, events, exhibitions, doing trade shows and doing branding and working on all sorts of projects from production, videography, presentation, and experiential experiences. I am thrilled to take you through how AI is revolutionizing the design industry. Today, I'll be covering three core areas where AI is making a significant impact, basically on architecture and the other elements that relate to architecture, which we'll be diving into further, which basically includes colors and patterns, both of which reflect on how the architecture concept is being presented. We will see how AI tools are enhancing the creative process, helping us push beyond our traditional design limits and shaping the future of how we approach design. So yeah, let's get started. First and foremost, let's talk about AI in design. So let's first address what AI means in the context of design. AI is not here to replace designers, but more to serve as a powerful tool that helps us automate certain aspects of creative process while elevating our capacity to innovate. With AI, we can generate fresh concepts, design patterns, and even experiment with colors in ways that weren't possible before. It is honestly a tool that enhances our capability to actually push further. It makes the work faster, it makes the work more efficient, and enhances our creativity and saves time. It functions with the direction of a creative director or creative. It does not function on its own, though it offers a lot of opportunities for expanded vision into whatever we create. In my experience, AI has been incredibly useful for transforming ideas quickly and enable us to spend more time refining and perfecting our designs rather than starting over from scratch. For us, AI isn't just a tool, it's a creative partner. It helps us produce work faster, more efficient, and has been integrated well within our process as we speak. I'm sorry. Excuse me, yes. So in our world, we've started actually using AI as a conceptual ideation much more and more, especially in the past 6 months. We have found the presence of AI within our integration of work to be a catalyst for actually how we operate right now. So basically what we do is any project that we receive, we start off, our now workflow does include start off with working with AI to create the conceptuals. So in essence, rather than sit on a project that we work on for 2 or 3 weeks, building up 3D models, presentation, and all of that, what we started doing is actually capturing the concept from the start with AI by presenting a concept that we feel is most suitable for clients. And sometimes because of the time that we have, it allows us to use 2 or 3 concepts that we can present. And it allows us much more opportunity to actually push in color palettes, color schemes, color theory within the design aspect so that we can actually showcase that to clients faster. Once the concepts are approved, then we move into the traditional modeling. However, even then we started to see that we actually can integrate some more of the traditional within what we're doing. So what I want to talk about is 3 segments, mostly related to creative and design and architecture. How AI actually is transforming the work in architecture and interior design. Basically, it allows us a visual exploration where we are able to present unique and stunning concepts in a fraction of the time that's traditionally used to present regular concepts. AI brings us a lot of inspiration, although some of the times we're actually designing one specific direction. It does offer the opportunity for inspiration along the way, where you see things you did not expect. And that's almost like having a team of creative where you brainstorm ideas and somebody comes up with an idea that you didn't think about. There's always one idea that might pop up that might say, well, this was actually something incredible we didn't think about. The other benefit, the huge benefit of it is like it's instant visuals that you generate versus the traditional method of, drawing a 3D and then like sending it into render engine and then texturing. What you get is like rapid idea generation that you can actually quickly scan through and see what works and what not. In essence, it offers like endless possibilities of fresh design perspectives, things that you did not expect and things that you expected. It offers you the creative freedom to transform imaginations into visuals. Now, it does have limitations in terms of accuracy, where you're not able to actually put in the exact concept, but there are ways to actually control what you're trying to say. So if we dive into like how AI transforms architecture, one of the most exciting things is how AI is actually driving innovation by generating designs that take inspiration from nature. Think like more of organic forms, such as honeycomb structures that not only look beautiful, but also structurally sound and suitable. So we're able to basically integrate any element, and I will show you like some of the examples moving forward, any element from nature or any element like that is inspired by culture, and transform that into actually a design. So AI really allows us to explore multiple iterations quickly, experimenting with different material and design techniques that would have taken much longer using traditional method. And this is kind of where we found the advantage of it in terms of time and efficiencies. We're also seeing how AI algorithms can actually suggest materials sometimes for us that we did not expect, that are also both eco-friendly and innovative, pursuing boundaries of what we can achieve in architecture. I will run through some inspirational images. I'm sure you have seen hundreds, if not thousands, of images on the web, on LinkedIn or on Instagram that represent what AI can do. But I'll just run through certain images for you, just to kind of give you an idea on the. And some of these images are intended for a reason, just to show you like what you're seeing is controlled in terms of color, in terms of texture, in terms of finishing, and in terms of end results. I'm going to pause at this image right here, and I'm going to try to see what I could do in taking you through a journey of what I call AI transformation, down memory lane when we actually started with AI. So what we're seeing today, what we're looking at right now, is not a product of like 10 years of work. This is a product of probably 2 years of work. when AI first started to create the text to image and image to image iteration with Midjourney, and then 10, 20, 30 other companies popped up with a very similar product. And they're all fantastic products and they all have their own use. But what I wanted to do actually is kind of take you, some of you who are not aware, I'm sure a lot of you are aware, where we were not even just 2 years ago to where have we become today. So rather than go from past to future, I want to go actually from future to past to kind of showcase to you, not even 6 months ago, what the outcome of certain images that we were getting looked like versus today. So I'm going to start with the image that you're looking at right here. This is actually what I call a controlled output, meaning that there were some elements other than just a prompt to actually generate this image. Some elements in terms of style references, some other elements in terms of color, theme, content. There's a lot of elements that go into this, and a lot of this I'm actually putting at the document at the bottom. So whenever we're sharing this document, you'll see all these references so that you can actually make use of it. But I'll start with this image, which is basically as of today's technology, and it's improving almost every month, if I'm not mistaken, to get better and better. But I'll show you the difference between today and not even like a year or two ago. Starting with this is what you can get out of what I call, again, a controlled output iteration. That's what the product looks like when I want to get a prompt for, luxury pop-up with this kind of finish and geometry. And the reason why I say controlled, because just after that, this image is the same exact prompt that was used for the previous image, except this is not controlled. This is the generic content where I popped up exact same prompt, exact same requirements, however, without all the other elements that actually control the output of it. So it's still very nice. It is not what I actually was envisioning. The previous one is what I envisioned. This one is more like it comes up as generic. It still looks good. It's very realistic. It does offer you like the content that you seek, and you can work with that. But it isn't what I actually intended. However, I wanted to showcase it anyway, just to show you the difference between a controlled output and a generic output. And the beauty about what I'm going to show you right now is that Midjourney has actually maintained, Midjourney is one of the main tools that we use for generating images. Midjourney had actually maintained all the previous versions until today, from 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So I'll be able to actually show you exactly what each version looked like using the exact same prompt iteration. So this was, again, version 6, just like the previous one I showed you, except this one has no controlled elements within it. And just moving back, one version before, which is version 5, which I believe wasn't that long ago that was released, maybe months, we're not talking years here. And that's what it looked like. That's version 5. And even at the time when it came up, that was spectacular. But as you can see, by comparison to today's versions, it's not even close in terms of realism. This compares more to what we could see in 3D renderings, a 3D output, which was still good. It was phenomenal. We can always create great images with it, but that's kind of like the quality that we were getting at version 5, which I believe was like maybe 6 to 8 months ago. Moving on, this would be kind of what version 4 looked like. The exact same prompt requirements, and that's what you would get with version 5. As you can see now, we're losing on resolution, we're losing on accuracy, we're losing on texture, definitely losing on realism. And to push this further, that was what version 3 looked like by the same token, using the exact same prompt. As you can see, we're losing almost everything here. This is version 2. And not sure we can recognize what it is. And this is version 1, where it was basically a novelty tool just for drawing simple drawings that at that time you could never imagine being used actually in business, like into your real workflow as an architect or designer or creative. This is kind of where it is today. Just to give you a scope, again, another picture of it. As you can see, we have moved so far within the past 2 years. It's not like anything else we've seen. And the beauty for us consumers is that there are so many companies competing and positioning for this that we're always getting the best product there is. Everybody's competing. Nobody's being lazy. Everybody's trying to stay on top. So they push the boundaries in terms of like what they offer us as consumers to use, which is good for us because we're always getting the best and latest. And I will take you through other technologies that we could use. So in essence, as I mentioned before, AI has literally changed the way we envision and see our work, how we actually integrate AI tools within our production, within our visualization, and within our presentation. It has transformed the process in which we work, and it has really elevated it, making the work, as I mentioned before, more efficient, faster, and a lot better. And actually now we're even competing in terms of the standard methods of presenting 3D, because AI just does such a great job. We actually have to elevate even the 3D presentations that we work with. But like I said, it really changed the way we see things, no pun intended here. I mentioned before that some of the drawbacks with using AI to generate visuals was that you're not able to actually depict exactly what you are thinking in terms of like the visual product or the design concept. Now, that is not entirely true. There are tools out there that can actually output your exact design or sketch or 3D model, if you may. And what they do is like they actually can produce relatively good rendered image out of a 3D sketch, whether it's a sketch, it's, perspective of a 3D, it doesn't really matter, but it does produce something that's really decent enough to utilize and present to your clients. It does not match the accuracy in terms of realism of, say, a Mid-Journey output. However, again, what it does offer is that like complete accuracy over your conceptual design. I'll just go back and show you kind of how we started. So this is the actual sketch, and this is the actual render. As I said, the quality of it does not match that of, say, a Mid-Journey output, like with shadows and lighting and realism. But what this makes up for it is in the accuracy of the model. And having said that, there are also, again, AI tools that you can actually take the model in and enhance the way it looks to kind of match up with that. So there's a couple of tools also I listed in my index that you could use to actually upscale the image. So in this instance, you're actually able to reproduce a sketch, not having to go through all the 3D modeling process. And from that sketch, you can actually generate an image, a render, and then from that render, you can actually elevate just a little bit more exactly how that image would look. This is one tool that I actually like to use sometimes when we're trying to actually generate a 3D render from a 3D sketch image rather than actually go through the whole process. We always do at the end up doing the 3D model because that's how it's going to be, because we still need to do like engineering on it and production. But in the ongoing process, this is one of the methods that we use to actually generate 3D images. I wanted to show another tool. Again, it's listed under my index. This is more of an instant image producing tool. So basically, I'm not going to show the demo just because it takes too much time to show it live, but I took a screenshot just to give you an idea. So basically, you give it a prompt of exactly what you want to see, double story, open story, condo in Manhattan, New York, open window. And whatever you draw and sketch here basically gets reproduced on this side of the image. So if I move the circle, the light moves up. If I move the square, the window opens up. If I change the lines, then I get different stripes in here. And this can be used for interior, for exterior, for any image you want. And you can actually have it stationed and then start changing the prompt. Let's say you like this image, but you don't like the fixtures. You can change this into white or marble or finish. So these are kind of like some of the ideas I want to give you in terms of actually being able to produce a more accurate or a different way of using AI to produce a more accurate visual. In this case, you'd be actually basically almost sketching live exactly what your model looks like. Once you're happy, you click save and you can show that. Or you can have a client that sits with you if you want to understand more of their vision. You can do this live with them to understand more like what they want to do. So all the tools are basically just to help you enhance further the work and make it more efficient and faster. So now that we have finished kind of talking about architecture, what we're going to do is touch on AI and the power of colors and how we implement that into architecture. Now, they're all related to, at the end of the day, to producing whether it's exterior or interior space, architecture models, retail spaces, hospitality, commercial buildings. It's at the end the same thing, but each one builds on another. So like what we started with was basically how to just generate architectural images. What we're going to be diving into now is what we call AI in colors, how actually selecting colors and creating reference colors can completely dominate and control the output of what you're doing. So in this instant here, AI actually is empowering designers by enabling us to explore a vast array of colors, combinations that are personalized and predictive. Whether we are working on a single piece of art or an entire architecture project, AI-driven tools can suggest color palettes that align perfectly with user preferences and emerging trends. In essence, what we could do is there's a few AI tools that actually use psychology. They use actually branding to integrate. So a perfect example of that is how AI can predict color trends by analyzing historical data and cultural influences. Sometimes we've seen that in Pantone color forecast. By using AI, we can create color experiences that are not only visually striking, but also emotionally resonate with our audience. And in that sense, there are methods of predicting color psychology, like emotional and psychological analysis tools that can predict what colors should be used. There's brand personality matching. We're creating like a color scheme which can align with the brand personality. A luxury brand, for example, might lean towards a deep, elegant tone like black or royal blue, while a playful tech startup might favor like brighter, more energetic shades like a neon green or orange. There's actually tools out there that actually can incorporate literally a brand, a state of mind, or exactly what the output should look like. There's also user-centric algorithms where AI considers target audiences, preferences, and behaviors. All these things are tools that are out there to actually be used in generating colors. I'm not going to get into those because I think part of it was also covered in last week's sessions, which I encourage you to see. It was a really good one on the psychology of colors. So I won't get so deep into the implementation, use, or psychology of colors, but I'm just telling you that there are amazing tools out there to actually use to harmonize colors with the brand essence. In that sense, AI can combine an understanding of brand identity, data-driven insight into a color palette. So you can actually literally create a color palette or an image that represents your brand. My focus will not be on that. It can, like where, for example, you can upload a brand asset, logo, previous campaigns, and it will suggest like a harmonized color palette based on the brand core identity. These are not tools I'm going to showcase today, but I'm telling you they're out there in case you need to actually output certain colors or certain look or an identity. Practical example, like in a design workflow, just to give you an example, let's say you're working with a luxury eco-resort brand that wants to evoke a sense of calm and sensibility. You can input the brand's mission, like sustainability, luxury look, into an AI tool, which would suggest a calming palette of, say, earth tones, greens, soft blue, and whites. So these are tools that are out there, and I would put some of them on the list so they can actually utilize some of that if need be, to basically integrate a complete brand color and come up with a color palette that you could use. What I will be doing, however, is actually showing you somewhere, how you can actually apply that method in AI to generate what I could call now more controlled output of your branding or concept design. Again, back to that favorite concept, and I'm only using it for reference because we've already seen it, so it's easier to refer to an image that you already identified with. So this is like a workflow example. What we wanted to do is say you had a client that was interested in this color palette, or you like this color palette, or you like this color image, or whatever the case may be. These are colors that you want, or you can see or foresee on a project that you're working on. So there are some tools online that you can actually grab that image, plug it into the tool, and it would give you all the color palettes within that image. It's an incredibly easy, simplistic way to actually generate color palettes that reflect the object design, what you're looking at. And we will go into other ways of patterns, but this is like in the color scheme. Basically, you would generate what looks an image like this. You can export this image, and now the magic begins. As you can see, these are the color palettes that you have of that. And this can be any image, and I'll show you other ones as well. So now the magic begins where you go into a tool like Midjourney. As you can see, I've entered the color reference here. This is going to be my my reference image to generate whatever I want to generate within this image. So what I have done is like I've called it my prompt. You can use any prompt you want. Like I'm asking for like modern architecture, interior design concept, but you can use it for anything to see what it generates. And here's the magic. What happens is the output that you get is basically absolutely controlled within those color palettes that you have uploaded as a style reference. So any image now that I'm producing carries only those color palettes. So now I'm actually able to produce in interior images of any space within that content that I'm doing, and they all reflect the exact same color palette. So don't gear off. So I can stay within the same content if I'm designing something where I'm presenting to the client. This is what I meant by making the work so much more efficient, faster and easier, where now I can actually group a concept within a specific color palette to show the client, this is what we're thinking in terms of what we think works for you. Again, any iteration or output you do, as long as you got that color palette reference, you're going to get within the same imagery that you can group up as one. As you can see, any image I produce would always carry the same exact thing. And this is kind of the intent of this, where now we have more control over the output of the images that we're looking at in terms of color content and theme. And this is kind of where we carry this over to the client and say, look, this is the theme that we're thinking about. This is the look and feel. These are the colors. What do you think of that? And if they say, well, we're thinking a bit more brighter or whatever the case might be, we can always do something else, say like, what image inspires you, or what would you like to see? And they would say, bring us something like this. Again, I won't go through the same exercise again, but it's exactly the same exercise where I would take this color palette from this particular image and plug it into the system and do that process, just use it as a reference. Now I'm in complete control over the output color theme. And this is kind of where like the color theory comes in. Just a few simple examples that I'm going to show you and run through just to give you an idea. This is the same thing where like we're using this color palette to produce these imageries. I mean, they can be anything in this respect here. Whatever you produce would always carry over that exact color palette theme. The same thing on this case here, just showing you different ideas. Whatever output you do, now you're able to actually do even close-up shots of furniture, close-up shots of kitchens, close-up shots of lobbies, close-up shots of reception, and it would always carry almost the same color. I will show you this example that we did for trying to present something for a large hospitality project. And these are the color palettes that we wanted to introduce to kind of showcase what that project would look like. So I'm only showing you like the overall shot of one image. And the next image, you will see exactly what I mean, where every single product is actually coming up within the same color palette. So in this hospitality case, whether we're doing the bar, we're doing the reception, whether they're doing like the live shots, entryway, bedroom, lounge, any area, as you can see, carries exactly the same color palette. So this is what I meant by it's actually more controlled right now, because you have a theme and a scheme that actually comprehends your vision. Again, very similar. It's a different idea of using like different textures and materials. Again, the output is all along the same lines. As you can see, it doesn't gear off from that. I will show you another example here using the same color palette. And now when you are typing up your prompts, you're always going to get the same exact reference imagery, you know? And I'll do, as you can see, it's consistent. This is what I meant by like controlled theme. So now when I'm presenting this, I'm presenting a very consistent look and feel. Last but not least is another concept we did, soft colors, and here we go. So the results are almost the same in terms of like what you could see. So this gives you an idea how to actually employ colors and actually generate more controlled output using colors and using color reference and style reference within the images of AI. That concludes kind of the second segment of this process. So we started off with just architecture, then adding colors to architecture. Now the next phase is going to be adding textures to the element of how to actually include textures now into the process. In this content here, I'd like to just first of all talk about patterns, what AI has done in creating like unique patterns. It has really literally revolutionized the way we create and incorporate patterns into our designs. Through generative design, AI is actually capable of creating unique, intricate patterns that can be applied across architecture, textile, products, and everything else in between, for marketing, for branding, for imagery, for visuals, for photography. We are now able to actually just literally imagine things that were, hard to achieve in a fraction of the time to generate any image that we want. One of the most exciting aspects is how AI also can adapt like motifs or art from various cultures or nature to generate patterns that are completely new yet deeply rooted in tradition or organic forms. This really actually opens the door to like endless possibilities for us to actually customize and personalize any image visuals, whether it's I meant in architecture or any other application or industry work, by applying the customized patterns. It allows us to create designs that are not only unique, but also deeply connected to the source of inspiration. In this process, I'm going to showcase a slightly different workflow. Now, this workflow can apply also for your color pattern selection, but I wanted to kind of leave this to textures, which is slightly more complex. So I gave you alternatives of using color in a specific way to use AI tools to generate palettes. In this case, we are going to be looking at the traditional ChatGPT tool. Again, I'm not going to go into a live iterations of it, but I will kind of give you an idea exactly how this workflow process works. Basically, everybody knows ChatGPT, uses it or not, or you can use any other similar tool. That doesn't really make a difference. The idea, basically, ChatGPT has evolved a little bit where you can actually pick an image, any image for inspiration that you like or see, and plug it into ChatGPT and ask it to actually analyze the image, give you an idea what that image is, where it is. Sometimes it really has a very good idea where that image was taken, location, time of day, colors used, pattern, textures, culture. It actually can really extract that much information from it. And from that information, you can actually tell it with that image that you actually uploaded. You can actually upload an image into ChatGPT. And from that image, after the analysis, you can actually literally tell it exactly what you want it to do. If you wanted to generate a prompt, you can actually generate a prompt for you. You can tell it exactly what you want the prompt to be like. So you can put that into some of those AI tools like Midjourney or DALL-E to utilize that prompt and generate textures or pattern out of it. So the first process is to upload an image or just request a prompt that you could use within ChatGPT. I always like to try to upload an image for reference. Once I get the prompt, I would go to Midjourney, enter my prompt, and I would get like a prompt for pattern or textures, whatever I'm trying to see that I can utilize. Say I put the prompt into Midjourney, I asked for a texture, I got this texture, and again, this is where the magic starts to begin in two forms. There's some tool, I also put a list for it, where actually you could take any output of pattern or texture and generate actually an endless, seamless amount of it. So that you can use in low scale, small scale, you can actually scale it up, scale it down, whichever way you want. That's like actually taking a pattern and upscaling it into any image we want. What I will do next is actually, I have taken the process that I just showed you with ChatGPT, asked it to actually create a pattern of a Samoan culture that I would like to use, and it generated this. Now that I've got this pattern, I'd like to plug it into, again, this is generated by Midjourney, which I would use as my texture reference to now it's an image reference to generate the interior design of architecture. So again, I'm not going to show you the exact prompt process because I'm sure everybody's familiar with it, but this is kind of the output that you get. Again, this is the pattern or texture that I'm using. I would like to apply this into space, and this is kind of what I'm getting. Now, there are ways when you're working with this to change what the wall looks like, change what the carpet looks like, but your first output completely reflect exactly what you were looking at in terms of pattern and how to apply that. You can see other outputs of it using the same exact pattern again, in the same manner that we talked about in color. We are seeing the same thing in texture, where we actually can control and direct what the texture output should look like if we want to show a specific vision of colors or patterns that we're using. And I will show you later how we can apply that into wider applications for commercial. But this is the idea again, we're using the same texture finish to generate all sorts of architecture images controlled within that same imagery that we have. Of course, this goes into much wider application. I just showed you one, but when we're doing like commercial building, tiling for floors, wall finishing, the same thing. This was generated off a similar idea using a textured image carpet to generate this flooring carpet. Again, you can do the same thing. Ask for different types of finishing to be generated. As you can see, the detail is just unbelievable when it comes to this. Is not photographed. This is all this is all Midjourney product from AI. As you can see, so you can apply this into different places. I'm showing you different images of different places and different applications of it. You can see here there's a different feel and look using the textures and patterns. Again, the same thing, applying the textures and patterns into flooring. And you could always control exactly like which area, if you don't like this, and I'm going to show you in a minute. Like, let's say this output we had here, I love what I'm looking at. I'm just not sure that this carpet is exactly how I want it to look like. I've used a texture reference, a pattern reference here of these pastel colors, as you can see, but I don't like this layout of how it looks in terms of the imagery. This is the beauty of some of the tools such as Midjourney, is that you can actually fix everything and only change exactly the area that you want to change. So everything remains the same. I love the image. I love what I'm looking at. I'm just not crazy about the carpet. So I do a couple of other runs until I get something that I truly and really like, and I'll go with that. So in that same content that I displayed for you what we did with color palettes, where we actually controlled the output of an image. I will show you some image results here. It's a bit different because they're more like extremely solely conceptuals. So let's say we're taking this texture and pattern that we created here. Again, as you can see, all my outputs go along the same lines of color and texture and finish and in this imagery here. So that's what we're able to control again the product now using colors and actually patterns. So like we're a combination of the two. As I mentioned, we started off with just straight up architecture, controlling using colors, and now we're controlling using patterns. The same thing here. We wanted to create an output for this was like a Nike Lego concept. Again, everything is you controlled. They're along the same lines in terms of like color and finishing. So this basically concludes the what we talked about in terms of how they apply AI, the benefit of AI in integrating it in design, and the different means and ways that you can actually integrate that. These are to me the most essential ones that I like using most. ChatGPT, of course, is the workhorse of all AI prompts and use. Midjourney for me, but there are other tools that you could use like DALI and other ones. They're just as good. The two softwares that I showed you, the two tools, Kriya and Chrome, where you can actually generate instant AI from sketches or instant outputs. Topaz, Photo AI, and Magnific are two amazing tools that are for upscaling your imagery. I use that actually on any design, not just AI design. Any pictures, any photos, anything I want to upscale, I drop it into one of these tools, and it can upscale it by 6 times. For print purposes, if you have an image, that worked great. Let's not forget Adobe Suite has some amazing tools in Illustrator, where it integrates vector-based imagery from AI, Photoshop, image changes, and InDesign, where you can actually generate images on the fly. So Adobe Suite has a lot of interesting tools. I'm not showcasing them there here, but those are something to be used. Then have also OpenAI with Stable Diffusion and Comfy AI. So in conclusion, I honestly just want to express the importance of staying on top of AI as it's a co-creator tool. Try to explore all tools that AI offers and see what tool works for you the best. I showed you kind of what works for me and for us, but there are other tools that work for other people. There's like so many that could. There's a lot of tools right now for converting architecture renderings from sketches. There's so many out there. These are my preferences. These are the ones I think like work for me best. But definitely you can go ahead and explore whatever you want. The point is, it really does help so much in terms of like the workflow, work efficiency, and how we generate our work, how we work with it right now. And so like as we wrap this up, I just want to make sure that it's clear that AI is here to stay, will not and will continue to play a key role in the future of design. It's not just about automation, as you can see. It's becoming like really a co-creator. I use it as a tool to help me out in many different ways, not just in design process, but in other elements. But it helps me push the boundaries of what's possible. Many times it produces things I did not imagine, and I could go in that direction, or sometimes it's just way off that I don't use it. So honestly, I would just encourage every designer out there to just explore all these AI tools and start implementing them into their workflow. It's not a replacement, but as a way to just enhance your creativity and efficiency. AI is opening many doors to people, and as we look ahead, I'm excited to see where it's going to take us. I think the future is bright and friendly, and there's so much to be discovered. Like I said, we get new tools almost every week or two, so I can just imagine the tools that we're using today, where we will be in a year or two, considering where we were just a year ago based on what I showed you. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you all for your patience, and we can open it up now for Q&A if anybody has anything to ask.
Amar, fantastic, inspiring us on this AI topic, where before maybe we felt it a bit, or me, as a threat. Here seeing it's actually a co-creator. It takes you took us on a creative journey or creation journey actually, and with a lot of tools and inspiring elements. Thank you very, very much for that.
It's my pleasure, Isabel. And that's honestly the whole idea. Like it's for people who are very aware of it to see that there are a lot more potential even, and people who are not aware of it just to see that it's really just a tool for me, just like any other 3D design tool I use. It just expands the horizon of where I can offer, where I can do at a much deeper level.
I'm going to take a few questions. All the questions will come on our website anyway, and when the webinar will be recorded and sent to you, you will get all the questions with the answers as well. For now, we're gonna limit it because it was so interesting, so we didn't want to interrupt for sure.
Not at all.
One of the questions is the advance in AI image rendering pinned to Neuro's version, or is it rather the input that you gave or that the users give that make this AI evolve?
I mean, it's a tool, and I'll repeat again. It's just like if some people are familiar with the traditional tools like AutoCAD, 3ds Max, V-Ray. The tool is only as good as what the user inputs in it. That's why I keep repeating. It will not take anybody's job. It will actually just enhance and support as a co-creator with you. So for sure, some of the imagery that you're seeing, the quality of it is controlled by the amount of input I put in it, because it's like I mentioned, like any other tool. It's how I actually control the output. There's a lot of aspects and tricks and tips that you could use to generate that output. But whatever you see me do, you basically are able to do if you just learn exactly how to use it. So, in essence, what you see is basically a learning curve. Just understanding, like, what camera angles are, how to use, what daylight shot to use, sunlight. It's like any other tool. You just basically input the information that you need in it, and then you start to play around of what works best, and then you create your own template, so to speak, that generate the images that you want for interior, for exterior, for furniture, for close-ups. It matters. But the tool is the same tool for everybody. I don't have a different tool than everybody else does. It's just the way you use it, the way you input into it.
All right. What future advancements in technology do you foresee that will influence the color usage in interior design?
Okay, so I mentioned the drawbacks of AI is that it does not produce the exact same imagery that you imagine. It does its own iterations. Yes, you can control it up to a limit with your prompts and content and description. You can be as detailed as you can, and it will get close. In some instances, it gets 90% close to what you want, which could work great for presentation, but when it comes to production, it is not. What future advancements I would like to see is being able to actually kind of what sketch to render works, but I would like to see that actually within AI, where I'm able to produce an exact image of what I'm doing. And here's wishful thinking for me, be able to actually generate a 3D model from that AI. This is like something that's not there. Now I gave everybody an idea to work on something. is that and it does exist where you can actually generate almost a 3D model. It's not exact accurate, but the idea is if I'm looking at this, for example, model that I'm looking at here in the Q&A, I'd like to be the ability to actually generate a 3D model out of that, so that I'm taking this straight into my engineering and fabrication versus redrawing the concept that I just did for you in here. So that's my wishful thinking. It will happen. I'm sure it will happen.
It's funny because it links immediately to a question that keeps popping up. You are so enthusiastic about this creation journey. I'm wondering, is from you the most exciting part, the creation, or seeing what you have created with AI getting realized?
Actually, I mean, I would say honestly, it's the two folds. The journey for me, which is the creation aspect of actually seeing what you're imagining come to life as you're working on it. That actually is very exciting to see, because like you have an idea in your head, you'd like to see how that output comes up. And so far, I would say the randomness of it so far is actually, for me, it's exciting because actually it does pop some things I did not expect at some times. So the process, the journey of it is actually exciting, but the realization of it to see it being implemented, that's the icing on the cake, of course.
All right, thank you. We have to stop this topic. Limited time, but thank you very much for inspiring us. It leaves me to invite you all for our next webinar, the next modulyss talk, who will also be linked to Neuroaesthetics, and there we will talk about case studies, so realizations of interior to neuroaesthetic designs. There we will have as expert Lucy Rees and Elina Nunziata, that teaches London their knowledge at that moment. I thank you very much for presentation and sharing your knowledge with us.
Absolutely. My pleasure always. To have a good day, and we'll talk later. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.